you adjusted your pricing up for all clients? And this is a chart of inflation. And you can see, obviously, in 2019, we're bumping along here. 2020 hits, drops down a little bit because of COVID, but then it has just shot up and it hasn't gone away. And I don't think it's going to go away. I think it's going to maintain where it is. And so what we found is a lot of MSPs have not adjusted their pricing enough. Some have, but most have not adjusted it enough. Now, according to Paul Sissel, who is one of our experts in residence, and Paul is, he runs, I think, about 8 or 9 of the service leadership groups, which are best in class MSPs that are growing and profitable. And, and he has said that the best in class MSPs have all raised their prices by 20 to 25% over the last year. And still have grown 20% on top of that. So even though their pricing is going up, they're still growing. And I think a lot of you have not adjusted it up enough. So this is a slide from Greg Crabtree. Greg is another expert in residence here at TMT. So Producers Club members have seen him quite a bit. And this is a MSP data. And now this goes to October of 2022. So it's lagging a bit, but it still tells the story we need to tell. And you can see down here, this yellow line is net operating income, which is your net profit. And then you're looking up here at the gray is non-labor operating expenses. And you can see it's just gone up and it's steadily gone up. And then the blue line is revenue and the top line is labor. So you can see that labor rates have been just escalating, specifically, especially for engineers, because we all know, like, your admin, just your general admin people, maybe their salaries, there's a cost of living adjustment, but it's not massive. You talk about engineers and the rates for them have gone up exponentially. And so you can see that the gap is getting bigger between the revenue and the net. And that's because they are generating more revenue, but their pricing has not come up. And so the gap's getting bigger. And so this just goes to show, guys, most of you are probably not generating 10% EBITDA or better, and not paying yourself a fair market salary. And that's nuts, because right now, more than ever, the demand for IT support services is through the roof.
Yeah, Robin, I got a question here. How does a small business, medium business afford it? With 30 seats, it'll be $4,500 a month. That's only $54,000 a year. That you can't even hire a body to do that.
Exactly.
And it's all the tools that you come with, the monitoring, the preventive maintenance and stuff. That, I mean, I'm in 7 different markets, from Philly all the way down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I sell my prices at that in any of the locations.
Right. Yeah. I mean, guys, like you say, that's your head trash talking. You'll forgive me. I know this, I'm being hurtful, but that's your head trash. How can they afford it? See, if you think you're expensive, if you think that's expensive, you're never going to sell it. You're never going to, because you think, I mean, think like Will's saying, it's 50, let's say it costs a small business $80,000, right? I mean, that you're getting an IT department for that. Like, no small business could get an IT department for $80,000 a year. I mean, you can't even, like, one person, and then you got payroll taxes. What if they're sick? What if they're stupid? They don't do a good job, and they don't, they can't do everything. Maybe they don't know how to, they're not good with help desk, and they have to know servers and infrastructure, and they have to know cybersecurity, and they have to know all these things. No one person can do this job anymore, right? So that's your head trash, right? Get that out of your head, because there are plenty of people who are willing to pay that. And the only thing holding back you from getting those prices is you. And I'm not saying everybody out there is going to roll over and pay those fees. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's kind of like the saying, you get what you tolerate, right? And if you'll tolerate clients who pay less, then you're going to get less. And if you make it so you will not tolerate anything less than profitable, then that's what you're going to get. And you just have to, it's a mindset change. I know it sounds, I know you're going to say, oh, Robin, you don't know. My clients are a bunch of cheap bastards. I live in the poorest part of town. Everybody's driving around in a used Volkswagen Bug with the patches on the tire, and they're so cheap. They don't even buy new shoes. They just put duct tape over the shoes because they can't afford shoelaces. Yeah.
And Robin, the same thing happened to me. When I first joined you in 2016 as a member, you remember when I was at Rapid, I said, right, I was arguing with you. I can't charge those prices in Atlanta. It's too saturated. There's too many MSPs. I think at the time I was charging like $55 a user back in 2016. I left that meeting after someone in the back of the room that was my competition said I was charging that 4 years ago. I went back, started charging $85 at that time. And now the same clients I was charging 85, I'm charging 195. So believe me, people will pay for it if they see the value, but you got to show the value.
And you got to do a good job. Because they're not going to pay. That's why I say you can price yourself too high. I mean, so you don't want to just say, well, I'm going to charge, beat my chest and go out there and charge $300 a seat, and you don't have the services to back it up. I mean, you might be able to convince a couple people, but they're going to be like, you're not any good for that. And I'm not seeing the value. I'm out of here. But so you have to have the value behind it. But most of you are erring on the side of being too cheap. Okay. And you guys know the evils of low margins. You can't compete. So another data point that you guys might find interesting is the larger MSPs. Now we're talking an all-in cost. So everything they spend on sales and marketing to get a client, they spend about $27,000 to get a new client. And how can they do that? Is because they're charging enough that they know they're going to get the profit. So getting a new client is like buying an asset. When you buy an asset, you expect to not make money on it immediately. So if I were to buy a house as an asset, when I buy the house, I'm not going to get my money back next month. It's an asset. Just like when you get a customer, a lot of times the return doesn't come in the first month, second month. It's going to come in 3 years later when they're still paying you. They've spent more money. They've got projects. They've given referrals, and it's creating value on exit. So when you exit your MSP and somebody comes along and wants to buy you, if you have good clients and good margins, you have a higher value, right? So you got to understand, if you don't have a sufficient margin, you don't even have enough money to get new customers. It locks you into being small. We talked about that because you can't afford to hire staff and grow. You can't pay off debts and store up cash reserves, which is like an emergency fund, which is critical. All of you should have it. Saved my ass in 2020 when I had to refund over $1 million to sponsors because our event got shut down. And I didn't lay anybody off. I didn't furlough anybody. I didn't take away anybody's money. And I made good on that. I refunded all the sponsors who wanted a refund. Some of them stuck with us because I had an emergency fund. And that's because I was making enough money. So I can't tell you, you don't know when your COVID is going to hit. And you want to make sure you have cash reserves. You can't do extras that surprise and delight your clients. You can't build wealth. It's going to lower your valuation on exit. So there's a lot of reasons why you don't want low margins. Just don't tolerate it.